equipment. Sorry. There's a little bit to say about the equipment, and it really depends on how you want to do it. And there's a lot of space for DIY. There's a lot of space for using equipment that you collect here and there. Honestly, the equipment you use is really up to you, and up to the money you want to spend on this. I think we've put a few pictures of what you can use, and I think in general you definitely need a kettle, something that you can heat up, and you need a mean of heating it up. You need some pipes. You actually want those kettles to have a little tap in the bottom of it, so that you can empty them and move the liquid from one to another. That's quite important. You can also use gravity to transfer the liquid from one kettle to another. So there's actually quite a lot of room there, and that's also why you should get prepared. So you need kettles, you need a way of loitering, and we will talk about it later. And you need a fermenter, but first of all, you need a mill. You've got some pictures on the screen of different kinds of mills. These are roller mills, and these are the ones that I would suggest anyway, because they will give you the best grist. But as you can see, again, you can fit some electric screwer on it to make it run, and you can build your own hopper on top of it. I mean, there's a lot of space for you to have fun, but the idea is that the grain actually needs to be crushed into in between those two rolls. They should just be compressed and open, and it gives you some kind of a coarse grist that is very much suitable for extraction of sugars, and also suitable for the loitering process. So if you mess up this step, it's likely that you will have a problem later down the road.
Yeah, just to add, I know that if you don't want to invest already in a mill, some of the homebrew shops, they will already grease the malt for you. So you can pay for the service of doing it. They will do it for you, most of them, and then you don't need, if it's the first time you are investing for a brew. If you don't want to skip that acquisition, just ask your homebrew shop to do it for you. Because they will do it.
Indeed, just remember to keep your grist very dry, because if once it gets wet, it's not a good idea to use it afterwards. Also on the bottom right corner, you see another kind of mill. It works with a screw that crushes the grain against, I don't know how to explain it exactly. It also works, but it's not as good. But it will definitely work. So just actually whatever works, make it work for you. But we suggest those roll mills, and what
the picture. Yeah, sorry.
No. I was about to say that what I think we have a picture for what the grist should look like.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to say. The next picture, Xavi, it's a super nice example of how the malt should be after crushed. You will see that it's perfectly crushed. There's not a lot of flour. It's just broke into small pieces. That's what you want.
Yeah, and you can actually still see the husk of the husk is that part that's surrounding the grain, and you can actually still see it. And it should be as little damage as possible, but still the grain is open, so that it will hydrate and give the sugar away. So gristing is the first thing. So just go do it. Get your 4 kilo grist. Collect everything in a nice dry and clean container, and then we can go to next step. Don't know if there's any question at this point.
So just to add, for the Delta, we use 100% pale. One trick that you can think about it is, if you don't have 100% pale, or if you have, for example, Pilsner and Munich at home, you can use them to substitute the pale. So if you use 60% Pils and 40% Munich, you will achieve something similar to pale, which will be fine for this kind of beer.
Yeah, I think as long as you stay with those base malts that are well modified and have a lot of sugar content and enzyme activity, you should be fine. So whether you don't have pale ale but you have Pilsner malts, I mean, it's not going to be exactly the same. Those malts have different specs, but they're close enough so that you can probably switch one from another at this point of the process. And you can also mix them together. If you don't have enough of one, you can complete with another one. But again, I would suggest that you just calculate before, because if you use those caramel malt, biscuit malts, they have a lot of flavor, and it will very, very, very quickly change or shift the flavor profile towards something you don't want for a Delta. So also try it, eat it, taste it, and you'll understand how powerful it is. Yeah, but stick to those base malts, and it should be no problem. Ideally, pale ale for sure.
Right, guys. So before we start moving into mashing, I've got two questions around the equipment. So first one from, I'm very sorry about this, but that's going to be a hard name to spell. Somasekar Eredi is asking if we can suggest kits that a beginner could have for homebrewing.
Again, I think the suggestion is really broad. You know, it really depends on how much you want to invest. You can invest in a super fancy homebrew kit with all the pumps, valves, pipes, cooling jackets, everything. But you can also go super cheap, but and still have fun brewing. I think that's a work that needs to come from you and understand nearby your understand together with your homebrew shop what's the best for your needs, and to see how much you want to spend on it, because it's really variable. You can go from, I don't know, 150 euro or 200 euro to, I don't know, 5K.
It's limitless. Yeah, there's no upper limit. You can still
exactly. Yeah, I think it really depends of how serious you want to go into
but I think if you do some research on the web, you will find some web shops that I'm sure are putting all the bits together, and they can ship it to you.
Yeah, and they're also very keen about helping you making the right decision, you know, because they want the clients for longer. Exactly.
So what would I recommend? I don't know what's the most critical part. Get yourself a good cooking pot. It's a good starting point. Think of a way of loitering, and that's a critical point that we will discuss later. But think ahead of how you want to do it, and yeah, just whatever works for you. Again,
I think in Belgium it's a Brewland, which is Brouwland, sorry, which is having almost like a monopoly on these home brewing kits. You can find that probably more shops on the web. But if you want to go see someone and have a face-to-face advice, I think Brouwland would be a good stop. That's actually how I did went to those guys. Can't remember exactly how much it costed. I think around 350 euros, something like this, for the starter kit, where you still have the mill, the one on the bottom right that you saw on the previous slide, not the fancy one, but the one that's so good. But I think with something like 350, you can get started. It's a budget for sure, but then think of how many happy friends and family you can make with your beers. Yeah, you certainly don't need to go crazy right from the start with multiple thousands of euros. I think just a few hundreds, 300-400 should get you started. What do you think, guys? It's a range of budget, no?
I think you can get started. You can probably get started for less than that. I think there's also a way, if it's your first time, you're not sure you like it, you're not sure that's actually what you want to do. There's a way that you borrow equipment. I mean, you probably have someone in your surrounding, in your friends or whatever colleagues that are already doing it. So ask them if you can borrow their equipment for a day, or just go for a first brew with them, understand what you need. And I think that would be the best way of doing.
Yeah, I think there's already a few beginners pack. You spend like $150 for it. It comes with everything that you need already to brew beer, and then from there, if you like it, you can upgrade it step by step according to your needs and your will.
Yeah, I think if you want to go 20 liters, then maybe a couple €100 is what you need to start with. But if you want to brew more than that, then yeah, you need to spend a little bit more money, I think.
Yeah, that's great. And then the second and last question from Kevin Collignon, who's asking, I'm going to say it in French because it's French. Quel changement dans votre process ou votre matériel, so on va se focuser sur matériel, a eu le plus grand impact sur la qualité de notre bière?
Okay, so what piece of equipment has the biggest impact on the quality?
Yes.
I think they all have impact on the quality. It's hard to tell which is, I don't know. Honestly, I think it's a tough question. I think for sure the loader, if you, I mean, in terms of how much time you will lose just by waiting for it to loader, I think if you have a proper way of loadering, it's a great way of improving already. I think the mill, I mean, honestly, if you have a bad grist, it can get really tricky. So it's very basic. So, I've heard stories about home brewers like really struggling, and even like when they were cooking, they were burning their grist because the flour was so thin that it would just drop in the bottom of the kettle and just it would give a smoky taste to the beer or something like that. So
it's great if you want to brew a Grodziski or a
Grazer.
But
yeah. So I think every little bit, if you don't do it properly, can have a big impact. I think grist is a great way to improve. Also, the way you cool down your wort. I mean, if you can do it properly without having contamination issues, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I will focus in the chilling of the wort as well.
Yeah.
I mean, ETA changes, they can get very messy if you don't clean it properly. So it's better that you have a good one. It's better that you really pay attention on that and be careful with that.
Yeah, and if you go for it, David.
Yeah. I was thinking about fermentation side. I think is fermentation and bottling. You know, like everything can be done really well until then, and then suddenly you just go down the drain because there's something that is not good or some contamination that can screw waiting process of 2 weeks. You know.
Yeah, indeed. And if you can start controlling your fermentation temperature, I think it's always a plus.